chips, don't let the salad win.
Nicky Thomas, the magic little man, walking. Oh, he scored!
Ian Ross!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Yes! David Davis! What a goal!
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham.
Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Burrell.
Williams! Ashley Williams for Wales! What a turn! What a goal! What a goal from Hal Robson-Kanu!
Go and wake your kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Juan Ugarte! Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
And here's Mendy! There's that racecourse roll again! Saved! Saved by Foster!
Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women have made history in Dublin.
Bale steps up over the wall. Oh, yes! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup!
Huge moment for Wrexham. Knox against Chamberlain. Knox for Wrexham! And there it is! Red delight! The Janeiro Adran Premier Champions of 2025-2026 are Wrexham Women AFC.
Mullin! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of those recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. Yes, we're back after the summer break. Did you miss us? Well, new titles, but the same old crap. And two people I definitely missed are two flag-waving functionaries of football. It's Jamie and Daz. Yeah, I knew it.
I recognise that. Si, do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is. No, I haven't got a clue what that is. The video for that, it will be next week when we officially open the chip shop, because we're not opening it this week, thankfully. But yes, I knew you would say something about it. Yes, a bit of a different start. No funny stories anymore because
Yes, come on!
Because I
no
couldn't be
more
bothered.
stupid stories at the start.
I couldn't be bothered to find. It was getting less and less relevant, to be brutally honest with you, because it used to start off as something that was relevant. What do you mean
less and less relevant? It was never relevant.
What do you mean? That was.
It was just always bullshit.
No, it wasn't. Anyway,
I love the fact it's taken you this long to notice it was getting less. I mean,
yes, I know. It's only taken me 3 years. Gents, welcome back. Did you have a good summer, Daz? Do you have having a good summer so far?
Yeah. I've had 1 week away in terms of from work and everything, and we did manage to get out of the country, so that was very nice. A bit of Italiano this year, which was hence the slight shade of teak that I've got here. But it'll soon go back to Welsh blue now that I'm back in the sunny homeland. But what about yourselves?
Jamie, you and me went to a Wales under-19 games, which we'll talk about later, Daz, and we also went to the Wrexham women's semi-final, which was brilliant. Apart from that, you having a good summer?
That's about the extent of my holiday, to be fair. I've just been flat out working all summer because it's my busiest time of year. So, not a lot of rest and relaxation for me. Lots of working, I'm afraid. But,
no, I know. Male pole dancing is very, very popular at this time of year. I'm very aware of that. Yeah. Anyway.
If you've got it, flaunt it.
Exactly, and you've got it, and boy, do you flaunt it. Well, obviously, we've been away for a while. So to catch up, our first segment is called Summer News Roundup. That's original. Where I give a very brief description of what's happening in Cymru and Wrexham football, and I ask the boys to give me one sentence or one paragraph on their thoughts on the story. Nothing in depth, just something to draft over it. So you ready? And here we go. Jamie, Phil Parkinson celebrated 5 years as Wrexham manager.
5 years. It's gone very fast. What 5 years? I just unbelievable story, isn't it? You know, the debate will rage on for years about the fact that he's had the resources that he's had, etc., etc. But nobody can argue or knock his achievements. And I think it's going to be hard. I know we've had the debate before. We'll probably have it again in the future. Is he the greatest Wrexham manager of all time? It's going to be hard to say he isn't. Long may it continue.
Daz, Wales under-19 men lost all 3 games hosting the under-19s Euros, not scoring a single goal but conceding a fair few. And then manager Chris Gunter joins Aaron Ramsey on the management team at Oxford United.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us were necessarily expecting to win the tournament. I think that was... I think the honour of hosting was the big key thing in terms of promotion and promoting Welsh football, which was fantastic. I mean, it was quite the opener against Spain, but, you know, they are arguably the best team in the world, certainly in Europe, and they've proven that by being overall champions. I like to think that they got better as the tournament got on by their results improving. But, you know, don't forget, we also had Germany, who came runners-up in our group. So, you know, it was a tough tie to begin with. So I think all of those lads will get a lot out of that experience playing in a major tournament against some quality sides. But it was men against boys, I think, you know, at this stage we know. But that's where we, you know, that's what we need to find out. That's what we need to see. So that was interesting. No, the big news, obviously, Gunt's going to join Ramsey. I mean, which is the biggest news? Ramsey going to Oxford is okay. Makes some sense. It's a club that has ambition, should be higher than it is, but you know, it's got potential. So I can see why that's an introductory first level job for Rambo. Gunt's, I mean, he's his best mate. It's not a surprise. However, I would have liked to have seen Chris Gunter in the role for a bit longer, seen that generation transition into the under-21s and into a little bit more time with that squad, because I think he was an inspirational player. I think these under-19s know his legacy, and it's something quite inspiring about having somebody that you recognise in terms of their legacy managing you. So not a surprise he went, and I wish him all the best. I wish them both the best of luck for the season ahead, but a bit of a shame. So it'll be interesting to see who else we get next.
Jamie, Wrexham fixtures dicked about with from the off as Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup, Birmingham City at home, Swansea City away, Burnley at home and West Ham away have all had time or date changes, meaning no away fixture at 3 p.m. on a Saturday until the 10th of October and only one 3 p.m. Saturday home fixture until the 17th of October.
Yeah, dicked about, that's the official term. What can you say? It's inevitable, and I think we had this conversation last season, and I think my answer then will be the same as it is now. It's unfortunately something that we're going to have to get used to. If we have got aspirations and desires, and the aim is to genuinely get to the Premier League, it's something that we're going to have to get used to. 3 p.m. fixtures on a Saturday afternoon are, for us, going to be a minority now, I think, going forward. The shitty bit of it, again, as we said previously, it's the fans, isn't it? Those fixtures where you've got long treks midweek, both ways. I'm not just talking about for Wrexham fans. Obviously, it affects other fan bases as well. They're the ones that are going to lose out. You look at the Cardiff game. Cardiff have been moved to a Monday night. That is a fixture I would have liked to have tried to have gone to, but with it being now on a Monday, there's just no chance I can do it. So yeah, like I say, it's frustrating, and I feel for the people who travel, home and away to watch Wrexham, because the inconvenience to them having to travel to Millwall on a Tuesday night or whatever it might be is rubbish. But like I say, it is something that unfortunately we're just going to have to get used to.
Daz, Espadorec renews its commitment to Cymru domestic football for the next 3 years, with Sgorio continuing to provide free-to-air of more than 40 live matches from the Novira Cymru Premier, which is the new name for the men's domestic game, the Genero Adran Premier, FAW Welsh Cup and Bute Energy Welsh Cup. This is alongside BBC extending the rights agreement for 2 years with UEFA to broadcast Cymru men's games.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I think S4C have always been good ambassadors for the game in Wales in that way, grassroots level, always, whether it was their live broadcasts, their live streams, their Facebook broadcasting that they were doing at various times. They've always found a way of making sure that the live coverage has been there, and the team do a great job. It's they're not big headline games, but they matter. They matter to a community. They matter to a grassroots community of fans who, I don't get to go home to see Aberystwyth as often as I'd like to, so it's important to see clubs like that. Admittedly, they're not in that division, but it's important, and then aligned with still covering the women's game, which is really important, and that has taken obviously too long to get to where it should be, but at least it's there now, so that's important. And I still think we probably do a better job of it than some of the WSL stuff I've seen. I know you have to go to Sky Sports and all the other sort of broadcasters to get to those, but it feels far more robust, which I think is a measure of the importance that they hold to it, which is really good. And the BBC rights. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I think a lot of people have said that they've, that there was an era when obviously having pay-per-view television or Sky, subscription television or whatever the format was before meant you couldn't see Welsh games unless you watched it on S4Ec, which was always a win, which is great. And Ebbs and the guys do a great job in the Welsh language, but they also have brilliant English commentary as well. So there's always been an option. So the fact that it's now back on BBC, it just means it's a little bit more front and centre. And it's great to see that on prime time, BBC One Wales, or BBC Two if it needs to be. But 2 years. I don't know what that means in terms of the ambition long term. But whilst we've got this campaign to go now and a Home Nations, hopefully, representation in the Home Nations Euros, then it's a good time to have that contract for the BBC. So important for both FAW and also for the fans.
Jamie, Wrexham say goodbye to United Airlines and hello to Firefox as the new front of shirt sponsor. Stoke also end their sponsorship of the Kairos and the Tech End.
It's part and parcel of football, isn't it? Monies. Yeah, that's monies.
10 million, apparently. 10 million.
Yeah, I mean, sponsors come and go, don't they? It's it is what it is. I think if you look back over the years, for any football club, there's obviously some iconic ones that always get remembered and affiliated with clubs. Thinking of Liverpool with Daz there, Candy to me I always think of classic Liverpool. Carlsberg being another one, but Wrexham Lager for us. It happens though, doesn't it? Sponsors come and go. I think you trust the powers that be at the club are doing the right things for the football club with regards to getting as much money as they possibly can. Like you say, the reports are it's worth 10 million quid, potentially rising up to 20 million depending on promotion, which is huge amounts. I mean, obviously, we have no idea, assuming that's accurate, we've no idea how that compares to, say, another championship front of shirt sponsor. But ultimately, if you look at the figures, the accounts that have come out over the last few years, and you've seen the crazy levels of turnover Wrexham are doing compared to other clubs, you'd assume it's right up there as one of the best. I'm not overly bothered that United or Stoke or whoever it is that's gone. Like I said to you before, for me personally, you could put Pornhub on the front of the shirt for all I care. If they're paying the money, I don't care. I'm sure there's probably one or two I wouldn't want on the front, but money's money, isn't it? We've got lots going on and off the pitch. That massive new cop stand is, you can see, starting to see why it's costing 70 million quid. So yeah, we need all the monies we can get. So yeah, it's. I think I quite like it. I know we're going to talk about the shirts later, but I quite like the Firefox logo on the two shirts we've seen so far. I think it looks quite cool. So yeah, no dramas for me.
Daz, Craig Bellamy looked set to leave to manage Championship side Burnley after saying quite robustly that he wanted to stay as Cymru manager until the end of the Euros, but this falls through at the 11th hour, and many Cymru fans are not happy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sensitive one. This, I think, I'm going to have to, and I am the guy with the glass half full. I'm going to have to say there was a lot of money on the table, and any one of us would have had our heads turned if that money's on the table. I don't care who you are. I do think that when the question is genuinely asked, you have to take time to consider it. And I think he would be doing himself and his family and his career a disservice if he didn't. That said, I get what all my fellow Cymru fans are saying. When you're robustly saying, I am not going to, be turned, I will not give up on this project in one breath, and then suddenly if it's enough cash to sort of turn your head, doesn't feel that, I feel that he is still the man for the job for me. He's still passionate enough about the job. He will still be committed. I don't think it doesn't matter who his employer on any given day. Whatever his job title is, he will give it his all. Now, I don't think this is make him any less a quality manager. I don't think this will make any change to his tactics, his strategy, his long-term plans. The fact that it almost got derailed, and equally could mean it could get derailed just as easily again in the future. I think we've ridden out the big two for him, though. There's no way he's going to get a City job because that's already gone. But equally, that would have been the only other club of note that were looking for a manager. Well, Liverpool, I suppose, but they were never really serious. Celtic, I thought that might have been the one. Burnley, I was less so. So that's why I think there was a decent offer on the table. But if you've got a connection to a club, of course you talk to them. Of course you would be entertained by it. So I don't think that makes him any less effective. The hardcore fans who believe that, can you believe a word he says because he can be easily head turned? Yeah, I get it. But if he starts the qualifying campaign and he's there, the guy that's in the dugout, and he's the guy that meets you off the bus when you get selected, I don't think any of those players are going to give a shit about that. They're just going to be there. They're going to put the shirt on. He will still instill that passion, that drive, the respect for the shirt, and earn the badge. All of those things that he said in all those brilliant sound bites he does. And I'm obviously relieved that we've kept on to hold of him for whatever reason, whether it was through luck rather than anything. But I'm so glad we kept on to him because I do think he is the player he is the manager who can get the players to play the best way that we've got the players for. I like his tactics. I like his style. And we have players that can do that. Our possession stats have been ridiculous. They've been ridiculous. And we're playing it out from the back. I know you get nervous about it, and your cardiologist will obviously hate me for saying this, but it's great, entertaining football. But I just think we've got some players who can do it. Nervously, sometimes we've been caught out, but I think I'd rather we play to our strengths than be the boring team, park the bus that we have seen in the past. I think this way we do have a chance of qualifying. We nearly qualified before. It was penalty shootouts that we're talking about. Margins, absolute margins. And so I am relieved. I think that those fans who are now angry need to get off that mission, that thing, and get back on board with supporting the team. And Cymru, we will qualify because we're obviously we're not getting an automatic place by the looks of things.
Well, exactly. There are places reserved for the 4 home nations. So if we don't qualify, there is something seriously wrong. But anyway, I can't comment on this, but that's the whole point of this. Jamie, Wrexham Academy have been busy off-season. A 1-0 loss to Sheffield United under 21s, a 2-1 loss to Preston under 19s, a 3-1 win over Larne under 20s, and a 1-0 win over Linfield Swifts in a tour in Northern Ireland, a 3-0 win over Buckley Town before a home tie to come versus Bristol City under 19s. Yeah,
mixed bag. I sound like a broken record whenever we talk about the academy teams. It's all part of the learning curve, isn't it? As long as they're not getting hammered every week, and they're being competitive in the games and in the tournaments and the competitions they're playing in, that's all you really want. And you hope that now there's more there's more resource and impetus being put behind the academy as a setup. You hope now that this will start to churn up some diamonds. That's the hope, isn't it, with the academy? That's what the club are hoping for in the long run. That players like Nico Williams and Harry Wilson, players like that who are from local to Wrexham that have ended up forging their careers elsewhere, will hopefully have somewhere to do that closer to home at Wrexham. But yeah, the youth side, they always seem to put give a good representation of themselves, whoever they're playing, But yeah, some good results in there. So good season ahead.
Does Piet Kremers, who is Craig Bellamy's assistant manager, leaves Cymru to manage in Belgium?
Yeah, I mean that's a shame. I mean, assistant managers they are often former players, people that the managers have made a connection with, or in this case, Bella's has made connection with him through his time at both City and I think it was Burnley as well. So I think Company had obviously taken him from Pep, and and Bellamy's relationship with Company. I mean, there's a reassuring sort of familiarity to that combination, and that's what made I think their working partnership really successful. He even stepped in as head coach on when Bella's got banned pitch side ban against Liechtenstein, I think it was. So he's already stepped up. So that these assistant managers are going to step in and step up when they get a chance. So the fact that he's gone now, the fact that the fact that he's going to a club that I think obviously in his homeland or certainly no, he's Dutch. He's going to Belgium, but he has connections with it's too tempting an offer. I mean when Pep left Jurgen Klopp and he became Pep Guardiola, Pep Linders became assistant. He left to go and try and manage a club, and then realized maybe he is the best. He's better as a number two, and came back and became Guardiola's number two. And I think there are some coaches, they are good coaches, whether or not they're good managers, but they don't know until they try it. And I think this is his chance, and certainly. Bella's held him in high regard, a young guy as well. So, his connection to the players was very important. So we will miss that influence, I do think, and we'll see who Bellamy thinks to put in his place. But yeah, tough shoes to fill, I think.
Jamie, the collapse of the lease for the racecourse is finally completed between the club and the Wrexham Supporters Trust.
Yeah, this was obviously very expected, wasn't it? But a massive kind of moment that the WST and the club announced that it had finally been collapsed after what felt like forever. But that's not criticism to any party. There are so many kind of legal ramifications to it. I'm sure it needed to be T's crossed and I's dotted 10 times over. But yeah, it's a huge step, isn't it? And full credit to the WST people involved for keeping the club's best interests at the forefront. Because whilst this lease collapse obviously means that the club now have the ability to do whatever infrastructure changes they want to within reason at the racecourse. There's also guarantees in there that it stays the home of Wrexham Football Club, isn't it? Which is absolutely the top priority. So yeah, fair play. Great for both sides that it's finally being done and resolved. And like I say, that that cop is going to be something to behold. To see it there and the rate it's going up and the size it is, it's going to be absolutely something incredible to see and be in, I think. So, great news that it's finally done.
And finally, Daz, Jenny Sugarman celebrates 1 year as Wrexham women's manager.
And what a year. What a year. I mean, you're talking about whether or not Parky's the greatest, most successful men's manager that the club's ever had. In one season, has Jenny already got that credit? I mean, I know Steve Dale did a lot with the club. He took them through a time of change. He took them through the formation or reformation of the club, establishing a women's side in the tournament, getting them back into the top flight. But what Jenny Sugarman's managed to do in terms of pulling in some really sizable, new signings. Who have really added so much to the squad. You get to see a little bit in the documentary about the way that she manages. She's really understated. She's really calm. She's very impressive. I do like her a lot as a coach. I think she's a little bit of swearing here and there, but actually it's not the tactic. She's not a Parky type manager. She's far more disciplined, far more nurturing. And the wealth of experience that she's bringing from Leicester, from West Brom, or whatever, that journey of her career, to be able to bring silverware, and not just the cup, because obviously one bit of silverware is one thing, but the league. It's all about that league. And in your first season, to have been able to have brought a double like that, yeah, she's the most successful manager of this club's history, and it's hard to believe it's only been 1 year. But you look at the squad that she started with, the squad that she's got now, and if she builds on that, and to have then gone to a European journey, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but that it's just been such an amazing 1 year, and I think it just bodes really exciting for the future of what is a really exciting future for the women's game in Wrexham and in Wales, hopefully.
And that's the Summer News Roundup. Probably should do that more often. So I don't have to speak, I just let you two speak, and I just added the bits, and it's much better. Although that covers obviously the main headlines that we've missed over the last 4 weeks, there are a couple of big stories that need a bit more attention. Just after the last episode we did a number of weeks back, one story dropped that we didn't comment on. Now, we'll discuss the ins and outs in general for Wrexham men and women later, but of course, the big out through the door. Paul Mullin finally hung up his Wrexham shirt with mutual termination of his contract with a year left to go. According to the Wrexham website, the club record 3-time consecutive player of the season left after scoring 110 goals in 172 first-team appearances since signing in 2021. The striker signed in the summer of 21 on a free transfer as one of manager Phil Parkinson's earliest signings after leaving Cambridge United. He scored on his league debut and went on to hit 32 goals in 44 games in all competitions, including a Steve Edwards goal of the season winner in stoppage time in the FA Trophy semi-final against Stockport County. What a goal that was. Mullin was also voted player of the season that summer, and his partnership with strike partner Ollie Palmer continued to flourish in 22-23. He scored an incredible 47 goals in 53 games, including a double to seal the National League title with a victory at home to Boreham Wood. He also finished as the Emirates FA Cup Golden Ball winner after his goals helped Wrexham reach the fourth round for the first time since the turn of the century. Mullin played every single National League game in the title-winning season, and his 47 goals in all competitions, including 4 hat-tricks. He was voted Wrexham AFC Player of the Season and named in the National League Team of the Season. Mullin missed the start of the 23-24 season, but returned to hit 26 goals in 43 games as Wrexham sealed the second consecutive promotion. He was named Player of the Season for a third consecutive year, first player ever to win the award 3 times. He also scored his 100th Wrexham goal in a win against Colchester United, which sparked a personal run of 6 goals in 4 games in the final month as the Red Dragons secured promotion. 2024, an injury again disrupted Mullin's pre-season, but he returned to score some key goals, including another Steve Edwards goal of the season winner as he hit a sumptuous volley in the Boxing Day win over Blackpool. Mullin subsequently became one of 10 players to win back-to-back promotions with the club, left Wrexham as our 9th highest goal scorer of all time. Today, he is signed for Rotherham with a deal. Jamie, it's that thing, isn't it? Players. We all have players, don't we, as we're growing up, who were kind of the player. Whether it be a Gary Bennett, a Carl Connolly, a Mickey Thomas, a Joey Jones. Paul Mullin, without a shadow of a doubt, for a generation, is that player, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure. A bona fide Wrexham legend. Will have to go in the books as a legend. It's sad, it was sad when it was finally announced, although absolutely not unexpected. We all knew it was coming. The writing was on the wall. I just, hope that he got an agreement with the football club that was, was right for him. I'm sure it was. But yeah, I think if you look back at the the last 5 years, and you look back at what's happened to the football club and everything else, he was the first, what the fuck kind of signing, wasn't he? He was like, as they mentioned in the documentary, I think Sean Harvey said, we shouldn't be able to get anywhere near Paul Mullin. Now, granted, the stars aligned with regards to the fact that, yes, I'm sure we paid him handsomely at that level, particularly to drop down. He just had a record season at Cambridge in League Two, got promoted to League One, and to then drop down to the National League. I'm sure no one would criticise him for the money side of it being a huge driver. But as we've learned, and as we well know, one of the biggest factors was his family, and the ability to be closer to his family, and that was obviously a huge draw for him. Particularly, when you think about sort of 5 years ago, with the age of his son, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean, what he's achieved in a Wrexham shirt has just been unbelievable, and has given fans home and around the world memories that will last a lifetime. My sort of, I think I said this to you when obviously we spoke off pod, but when this happened, and I think I said to you at the time, my only thing is, I think it's going to sound really weird. I think he's a victim of Wrexham's success in the sense of, I think if we wouldn't have had the meteoric rise we did, where we got back to back to back, and we went through the leagues as quickly as we did, if we'd have spent 3 seasons in League Two and then 3 seasons in League One, I think Paul Mullin would have been a even bigger star in a Wrexham shirt, would have scored even more goals, and would have cemented a legacy even more than he already has. I think, sadly, the success of the team bypassed his ability quicker than we all of us probably would have liked to. That's not to say that he couldn't have done it in League One. I think I forget who said it now. It might have been Rich Fay on Rob Ryan Red, said that I think Paul Mullin, when he came to us from Cambridge, I think the levels he was hitting then, arguably he could have competed in League One. But then if you look at what's happened over the years, obviously he did fantastic for us. Those 2 injuries he had were absolutely horrific when you look back, and you look back at the impact that those will have had on his game time, the lung and then the back. Whether he can, obviously we'll never know, will we, whether he can do it in League One. That the fact remains that he's still unproven at that level. And realistically, it's probably not something that's going to happen for him now. But I'm glad. I'm glad it was sort of done. That it was all done and dusted. He's obviously got a deal that works for him and has allowed him to leave the club with his head held high. It's a shame that we couldn't have a proper send off with him. Like Ollie Palmer in the Carabao Cup last year at Hull. Obviously, I know there's question marks over Elliot Lee, even though he's obviously gone on the American tour. But there was that moment in Krakow, wasn't there, where he had his little moment with fans, which felt like a little bit of a goodbye. So it's a bit of a shame we've not had that with Moles, but I'm sure something will happen in the future where we'll get the opportunity to sort of serenade him again. But yeah, what an unbelievable part he's played in this success we've seen over the last few years. And like I say, given fans, given me memories to last a lifetime. I mean, I think that the 2 goals against Boreham Wood, it's a cop out to say those, because obviously that for obvious reasons. But I think particularly the second one, because that was the mic drop moment of, oh my God, we're actually going to do this. And yeah, what an unbelievable player. And I can't believe you haven't used my picture on there of him when we beat Forest Green.
I couldn't afford the copyright. Yeah. That's the problem. So
I've got my picture framed, signed up here, and I've got my trainer signed by him. So yeah, for me, he'll forever be a Wrexham legend, and I wish him all the very best at Rotherham. I think that's a good move for him.
Don't. I'll ask you about that in a second. I mean, Daz, the long divorce, the drawn out goodbye. I mean, there are some mirrors there are some, and I'm using this very lightly, there are some mirrors to Liverpool and Mo Salah, because iconic player, scores goals for fun, fan favourite, but his kind of reputation got slightly tarnished with all the nonsense in the dressing room with Arnie Slot. Do you think, with where Paul's concerned, this whole kind of drawn out, still in the club, going out on loan, not really hitting the marks on loan, coming back to the club, the willy won't he? Do you think that's hurt his reputation at all, or with Wrexham fans, it makes no difference whatsoever?
No, I can't imagine it makes any difference. But I do think they are different when injury does come involved. Though I think Mullin's return was always marred with, has he ever been quite the same player since? I think you can give examples about great players leaving great clubs, and Mo's a really good example. But he was Mo Salah is an example where he got to his peak, had plateaued, and was beginning to lose his form. And when you've got a team like Liverpool trying to aspire, they got to look at keeping to improve and all of that. I think what's different about Mullin was he was, in a very short period of time as well, 4 years is not a long period of time to be a great at a club. I think there were always the doubts about whether or not he could have stepped up. I think, some people say the Cambridge experience proved that he was, whether or not he could have stepped up then. Should he have stepped up then because he would have been at his prime at a higher level? Or actually, is he proven himself to be the greatest mid-league players to have played the game? I don't know. But I think we'll never find that out, because I don't think he was, certainly, after the lungs and the ribs and all of those kind of things, and then there was it spinal? There was the last one and stuff. They're not run-of-the-mill injuries. They're not like ACLs or metatarsals or whatever. Dropped a tin of beans on your toe, or that some of the other footballers have done. You know what I mean? These are life-changing injuries in many ways, and so I think for him to have sustained any kind of comeback in any of those situations is phenomenal. So I do think it gives a lot about the spirit of the guy. I don't think the shenanigans in the dressing room is anything. I know he's outspoken because he's a passionate man, and to put it on your boots is, I love it. I mean, a being, not a Tory fan, it helps, but I think there's an element of that which is fantastic. Now, going back to your original question was, will it be tarnished because it was a drawn out ordeal? I think because he never got back to the heights, but they wanted to honour that legacy so much. I think the club perhaps, I think they were onto hiding either way, because what happens is, if you think he's no longer good enough for you or has no longer a place in your team, you've got to move him on. If you sold him last year, whatever, after 3 years or 4 years, whatever the time was, I think there'd have been a lot of backlash from fans about what is the club thinking about getting rid of such a prominent player. The fact that they wanted to give him a chance to get back to some fitness, some would say, by going out on loan, was the way to do it. Any other player, that's what you do. So the fact that going out on loan never allowed him to get to the heights, and also, Jamie's absolutely spot on, the progression of the club up the divisions meant they were already buying better. And I'm not saying this define better. I mean, here's what, more proven, probably not. A potent goal scorer. I don't know. I mean, there's your Windasses and your Kiefers are proven, but the passion, whatever you need from your players. But if you are buying better, then it was always going to make not only are you asking him to get back to fitness at a level, you're asking him to get back to fitness at a level and then get up another level to what has been bought into, what has been promoted into. I don't think many players do that when they're 25, let alone at the age he was. So I think this was inevitable, but I think it was a genuine gesture of goodwill to not sell him straight away, give him the chance. The fact, you're absolutely spot on, he deserves a send-off, and the fact that he never got it. But the only way he would have got that, would have felt like a premature departure for you guys, and I don't think any of you would have celebrated it in the right way anyway. So, not I don't mean you'd be angry, or it just wouldn't feel like a celebration because you'd think he'd be going too soon. Yeah. So I don't think the club could ever have got this right unfortunately, his personal circumstances have put him and the club in a position where I think this was inevitable. And
I think one thing's for sure is, any criticism that would be levelled at him for making the move to Wrexham in the first place, having finished that season as top scorer in League Two, Cambridge top scorer, getting promotion to League One, then to drop down to the National League. I know he's come under criticism in the past by a lot of people for making that move, or you've only done it for the money, etc., etc. But I tell you what, he won't have any regrets about that move at all.
No.
When you look at what he's achieved from a footballing point of view, what he's probably achieved for his family. We all work for our families, and if you think about the exposure that he's had, he's done a book and various other things.
With the likes of Jamie Vardy, he's probably the most famous National League player there's ever been. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but,
and he's rubbed shoulders with Hollywood A-listers. He's been in he's been in a movie. He's been on American tours. I mean, how many players that played for Cambridge have been on a tour of Chicago, LA, and New York? I mean, it's just not the done thing. So, he's had a hell of a. You're absolutely right. He won't regret it, and he got to do all of it living in a part of the world which was close to his family at a time when he proactively was a good dad around his kid and has brought attention to autism as an important subject that needed some light shining on it. I think he's been an amazing ambassador on many levels, and for that he can say what he wants about the Tories.
Exactly. Jamie, so we found out today he signed a 2-year deal with Rotherham, so back to League Two. I mean, as we said, he's been on loan last season, Bradford, I think, and Wigan, I think he went to as well. Didn't really pull up any trees. He made some appearances, but maybe one or two goals, but nothing like the level he was at Wrexham. Do you think this is kind of a good fit for him, Rotherham in League Two for 2 years?
Yeah, I think this is a good move for him. I think, funny enough, when it was announced before, one of the first things I did was I had a quick look where Rotherham is in relation to, like Liverpool and stuff, to see sort of the logistics, because I was unsure where it was, and it's probably a little bit further than Wrexham, but it's not, it's not like it's a 3 hour. It's not like Cambridge, for example, when he was at Cambridge. So I think that still ticks that box for him for being reasonably close to home. It's a 2-year deal. What is he now? 31. He's got a 2-year deal. Again, I'm sure, earning decent money. Back in League Two, I think he's the best place for him to go. Like you say, he had the 2 loans last year at Bradford and Wigan, which both of them, let's call it what it was a disaster in the sense of he didn't get, for whatever reason, he didn't get the game time and he didn't score the goals. So I think, League Two, National League is kind of where he will be best suited. And I think it'll be fascinating to see. It'll be fascinating to kind of see and follow following this season at Rotherham to see what he does. I think I would speak for every single Wrexham fan when I say I'm sure that every single one of us would want to see him tear it up. At Rotherham in League Two there, because we've seen him do it for us, and he was capable. Let's hope he's got all those injuries behind him. Let's hope now he can get settled again at our club, and be a main man for them. Bang a load of goals in, as long as it's not against us in an FA Cup or anything. But
I was thinking the same thing.
I wish him all the very best, and I hope to see his name, on Saturday afternoons that Mullin scored again. That'll be fantastic. I'm sure we've not seen the end of him at Wrexham. If you look at what the club have done with a lot of players that have left, Tozer, Ben Foster, Stephen Fletcher, they've all got some kind of role now, some kind of ambassadorial / media role. I would be flabbergasted that when Paul Mullin finally hands his boots up, I would be flabbergasted if Wrexham don't get him involved in some way, in some capacity at the football club again. So that'd be great to see in the future. But yeah, for now he's obviously still got playing time in him. And like I say, I don't think there'll be a single Wrexham fan around the world that wouldn't wish him anything but the best of luck.
And of course, he'll be coming up against lots of ex-Wrexham players. He'll be coming up against Andy Cannon at Fleetwood Town. He'll be coming up against on loan Mo Farl at Port Vale. He'll be coming up against Ollie Palmer at Swindon. So there'll be lots of opportunities there for him to
If he's still at Swindon.
Well, yes, if he's still actually playing, because he looked, from somebody who's in off-season, it looks like he's been eating about 50 pies. So, yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, Paul, you've had tons of plaudits. You don't need us to say it. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all the goals, for all the moments, for all the incredible highs and the amazing lows of the times that we've had. You'll never be forgotten. You're on my wall as well. You're all plastered all over my wall. There'll be kids up and down the country and around the world who will have you as their Wrexham player for the rest of eternity. So thank you for everything. That time of year again, as Wrexham fans around the world empty their piggy banks as the 3 fixture shirts are released for the 2026-27 season.
Fixture shirts? The hell's a fixture shirt?
Main fixture shirts, that's what they're called, isn't it? Fixture shirts. It's a match shirts, fixture shirts. Macron continue to be the shirt makers, of course. Firefox now don the front of the shirts, and games console maker NEX become the primary sleeve sponsor. First to show then was the away shirt, which debuted on the pre-season friendly versus visitor Krakow, according to the Wrexham AFC website. The dark anthracite grey kit features a mandarin collar and a design defined by the sublimated graphic combining the dark base with red lines inspired by North Wales slate quarries, reflecting our industrial and cultural heritage. The shirt designs is complemented by a silicon hem tape reading Ein Tier, ein Husbrid, our ground, our spirit. The Wrexham AFC crest and the Macron Hero logo are both in silicon printed and are displayed in a striking red colour. The shirt also features a Ddraigorch, the red dragon, on the nape and pairs the wording Wrexham is the name with Macron's design in Bologna, as Wrexham celebrates 10 years of partnership with the Italian brand. The kit is completed by dark anthracite grey shorts featuring a red side panels and matching socks with a thin red stripe around the top. Just above the ankle, the Macron Hero appears in red on the front, while the number 1864, the club's founding year, is displayed on the back. Adult shirts cost £65, and if you want to add your name and number, it's £18, and the league patch, whatever that may be, is an extra £6. Jamie? So this was first one to drop. I saw it the day it dropped because they were going on visit Krakow. I liked it.
Yes, I know you did.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes,
I know you did.
Yes,
getting your mug again in official Wrexham media.
You know, I'm becoming the official face of Wrexham. What can I say? I like pies. I mean, some people. I liked it. I liked it when I saw it. I've been since to have a look at it in the club shop. I still like it. Some aren't enamoured by it. You know, they're saying, I want another black kit. You know, it's like 3 and 4 years or whatever it is. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one first, Jamie?
It's tricky, right? Because I haven't been able to go to the club shop to actually sort of hold one up, try one on, whatever. When I saw it, when it was released, I looked at it and I thought, yeah, that's nice. I like that. And I do. I think it is a nice kit. However, we went to the women's the semi-final, the Champions League semi-final at the racecourse, and there were obviously loads of people wearing them, and that's kind of as close as I've been able to get to one. And I have to be honest, seeing it that close now, I'm not as keen as I first was when I saw the pictures. I don't know whether this is going to sound really terrible now. As you and I know very well, they are shit-fitting. Macron jerseys are shit-fitting. You've got to go to
They're not for fatties. They're not for fatties, let's be honest.
To fit our fat frames, you have to go big, which means you go very long. So you end up with something that's like a tent, or you end up with something that's like very tight and isn't particularly flattering in certain areas. And a lot of the people that I saw wearing them at the women's game were in that latter category. And I'm not fat shaming anybody. I'm in no place to fat shame anybody. But I looked at a lot of them and I'm just like, they just don't look very nice at all. So yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll change my mind when I actually can hold one up in the club shop properly and see it properly. But yeah, it's an okay one for me. I'm not bothered about the fact that it's black. You know, another black kit. I like the black kits, to be fair. You know, I quite like the fact we had a black kit. I think the only comment I would make is that there are a few people on X in particular who are quite good with AI and stuff, and there were various concept kits doing the rounds and stuff. And I saw one that somebody done, which was basically a plain black shirt but with gold detail, and that looked the bollocks, you know. And I'm thinking something like that would be amazing. But you know, like I say, this is it's not an offensive kit at all. But yeah, it's probably not one that at this stage, probably not one I will get. Certainly not pay full price for.
Daz, black shirts aren't for everybody, but there are some decent nods to Welsh heritage, which is great. You know, the fact that we've got, you know, English and Welsh on both of them, which is fantastic. The print at the bottom. Big hoo-ha about. I mean, there's a jacket that they released. I don't know whether you know this. There's a jacket they released that had a white dragon on it. Which was the jacket itself was minging. I mean, it was minging. As Richie said off the Racehorse Ramble, he said it looks like you could get off Mostyn Market, which anybody who knows Mostyn Market, that's where you went to get loads of knockoff crap stuff. The white dragon was on.
Think the Scousers, Harry Enfield, the Scousers.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
That's what it was like.
Definitely, but it had the Welsh dragon, but in white, which obviously instantly a number of people got their back up about, and the jacket was taken off sale quite quickly. Very similar to the whole Wrexham caps with the English badge on the side, which again got taken off quite quickly. I mean, I don't know how much of it you've seen, this shirt, but what are your thoughts with regards to knowing the history of Wrexham shirts as we do? It's great that they're doing the nod to the industrial past of Cymru. You know, the slate and the coal and all those kind of bits. But kind of what are your thoughts on this design?
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen any of it up close. This is the first I've probably seen it. I mean, for those who don't know about the white, you know, the story of the Welsh dragon is about the fact that it defeated a Welsh dragon, the red Welsh dragon defeated a white dragon under the ground, and it was. And it's the origins of where we got the story of symbolizes the Welsh beating the English in a great battle, so the white dragon should be nowhere near us. And so just even seeing the two little white ones on the badge just jarred a little bit for me.
Yeah,
but I get it's a negative. I get it's a negative. I think you can excuse that. You can overlook that enough. I think if you were to put the official dragon, the one that, you know, we've got there top right, is the flag Welsh dragon.
Yes.
That can never be in any other color but red. I just feel that was not sounded properly. You know, no sounding boards. Nobody on that meeting was Welsh. Let's put it that way.
Well, you wouldn't mind, but the documentary in season 1 did a big piece about it. So it's not as if they didn't talk about it. So, and the thing is, Daz, it's not as if it is. It's the Welsh dragon, but in white.
Yeah,
it's the exact copy, and I think that's what probably upset a number of. And I totally get it, you know, because I mean, Owain Glyndŵr definitely fought under the red dragon banner. Didn't Llewellyn also? I think Llewellyn was the first. I think to fly the red dragon banner. I'm pretty sure.
It's certainly Glyndŵr who brought it to, you know. Well, actually no. It was Tudor, Henry Tudor.
Henry Tudor
was the first one to bring that into the coat of arms.
That's right.
And when he became King of England, or, you know, the British Isles in those days, wanted to acknowledge his Welsh heritage, and so he put the Welsh dragon into his coat of arms. So. We have a history with it. It's where it belongs. You just don't mess with it.
It's our identity, isn't it? As people of the land of Wales, it's our primary identity, not the leek, certainly not Prince of Wales feathers. This is our identity. And I think that's probably what it upset me. I have to be honest. I was what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
I think you've got to. They've done the right thing by pulling it off sale, because it did cause uproar, and quite rightly caused uproar amongst passionate Welsh people. But I think you've just got to put it down to a little bit of that whole that we've talked about before, where things are moving so fast off the field. It's obviously, you've got departments now who are going to be made up of people who are not au fait with Welsh history, not au fait with the local area. You're going to be the designers who are just going to, that's purely all it's been done by. Somebody has just gone, it'll look cool in white. That's all they've done and had no clue whatsoever.
Yeah, I get they want the contrast on the black. I get it, but you're absolutely spot on. But that's what worries me about the club now, and I don't know if you guys feel the same thing about your club. Has, if you've got these important meetings going on, how many people are on these panels who make decisions, who are in the meetings, just in the call, who are actually Welsh or from your club or from, it feels it's not the first example of where it feels like your representation isn't reflective of your club as much, and there's the risk of the big buyout sort of problems you have with people coming in with the money and buying clubs.
You're absolutely spot on. It's like when we had the conversation about the board of directors, when these people from Apollo were added to the board of directors, and you've obviously got the Allen family, and you've got Rob and Ryan, you've got Michael Williamson and all these other people. I think we mentioned it at the time there. I think it's really important, and I think these two little incidents with merchandise over the last couple of months, I think genuinely the club need to, and maybe they might be, they need to almost look at a role within the club. Well, having said that, there's people in the club, like Geraint, for example. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there needs to be a role probably within the club somewhere that has like some kind of historian that knows the history of the football club, knows the history of the country, and can, if there's ever any question mark over the colouring of something, the changing of something, that they consult it, because God knows how many of those jackets were made, but I'm sure it's going to be a costly mistake. I mean, the only plus side to it is when I need a fancy dress outfit for New Year's Eve, I'll be able to get a cheap scally tracksuit to wear, because they were horrible. Even if the dragon had been red correctly, it was a horrible jacket.
I bet you Dave O'Brien bought one though.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
Because he loves dodgy jackets. If you're listening, Dave.
Sure he has.
I think the shirt's great. I loved the launch on this as well. I thought the video was really good. I love these photographs. There's one there of Jody Bartle and the two lads there who are kind of old school 1950s footballers. Really like that. So yeah, well done on that. But yeah, stay away from the White Dragon.
It looks good on the players. Maybe it's just it didn't look good on people like me and you.
Like fatties, yeah. It's made for skinny people. And then this week, of course, Wrexham released the home shirt finally. And this, for me, shows the level of ridiculousness that Wrexham AFC is now at. The home shirt was launched at the opening bell of the Nasdaq Stock Exchange in New York, with the video going live in Times Square. Let me just say that again. The opening of the Nasdaq, the biggest stock exchange in the world, and the video went live in Times Square. Brilliant video, by the way. Some real nods. The real nods on the shirt design obviously nods a lot to the cop, which I'll talk about. Can
we not talk about Times Square, please? I've got real FOMO at the minute.
Have you? I've been there, mate. Been there. It's brilliant. And it was great to see. Little things like Jacko being in it. For me, kind of the chef's kiss that for me. Just
to acknowledge that, I'm glad you mentioned that. Just to acknowledge that in reference to what we've just been talking about, that's a great example of the club getting something right.
Doing it right, yeah.
That Jacko, that little clip of Jacko, there'll be an awful lot of fans that will have seen that video and had no clue who he was.
Yep.
But then there'll obviously be a lot of people who know who he was, know the significance of who he was, and the significance of him being in that montage with what they're trying to honour in this shirt as well. To be fair to the club, going back on what we were just saying a minute ago, that's an example of where they've got something really, really right.
Totally. Anyway, from the Wrexham AFC website, set to debut this shirt tonight, as we're recording this on Wednesday, in the match against Liverpool at Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium. The red home. Say again, Das.
Who are they?
Exactly, yeah. Who are they? Who are the Yankees? The red home shirt features a distinctive embossed pattern inspired by the barriers which previously lined the original Cop Terrace. A street sign reading Racecourse Ground LL11 Wrexham also features on the front of the shirt. The heritage aspects of the new home shirt also includes 6 flagpoles on the nape, another tribute to the old Cop, which spells out Kai Ras, with our foundation year 1864 also featured. Inside the lower hem, once again, remember the 266 victims of the Gresford Colliery disaster in 1934, with a tonal print of the colliery wheel and the number 266. The new shirt boasts a white V-neck collar, finished with a fine red line, which is repeated on the sleeves cuffs. The shoulder and upper parts of the sleeve are a slightly darker shade of red, with the vertical white band runs down each sleeve from the shoulder. Wrexham AFC crest is embroidered in full colour, as is the white Macron Hero logo. The shirt is finished with an internal silicone tape running through the rear of the hem, which reads the same as the away shirt, and the new home kit is completed with white shorts, red side bands, white socks with the red upper cuff, and fine horizontal white stripe. The adult shirt and personalisation costs are the same as the away shirt. And the third shirt is reported to be cream. We haven't seen that one yet. A different club badge, though, showing only the dragons and the football from the lower part of the main badge, getting rid of those hideous, awful, disgusting Prince of Wales feathers and that terrible German thing that I've hated for years since I was a kid. And that report's due say that that's due to be released on the 5th of August. So Jamie, as we always do, release this in New York with the ringing of the bell at the NASDAQ and then the video going live in Times Square. Firstly, how mad is that as a launch? And it's properly boiled piss, because my social media has exploded from everybody else saying, who the hell do we think we are, blah, 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 blah. Cardiff fans have totally invaded my DMs, which is great. And secondly, although I've not seen this one, obviously, in the flesh, what do you make of this new home shirt for this season?
Yeah, the launch was nuts, isn't it? But yeah, just another day. It's just another day for Wrexham Football Club, isn't it? You know, it's
another day in the loony bin for Wrexham Football Club.
It's absolutely nuts. You know, Cardiff fans and any other fan can get as irate as they want to. The bottom line is that, you know, whether you like it or not, Wrexham are a huge football club now in North America. You know, and they obviously felt that was the right thing to do. I mean, obviously, it had been seen a few days before because you know Ryan gave one to a WWE wrestler, didn't he, at an event, and it got posted all over the internet, which was interesting. It was interesting that happened because they're usually very good with stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely nuts, but very cool. You know, if you're an opposing fan, yeah, I can understand you. Like, who do these lot think they are? But if as a Wrexham fan, it's very cool. The shirt itself, do you know what? I read quite a lot of negativity towards this shirt. Again, mostly from people who haven't seen it in the flesh because we weren't able to. But a lot of people don't seem to like this, and I actually the opposite. I love it. I really love it. I love the two-tone red. I think it's a nice little point of difference. I don't mind the white stripes. I'm not too keen on the long sleeve version. I looked on the website and obviously the white stripes on the sleeves go all the way down on the long sleeve version, which I wasn't as keen on, but then I'm not a huge fan of long sleeve shirts anyway, generally. But I again, have not seen this in the flesh, but I really like the look of this shirt. The two-tone I personally like. I know a lot of people don't, but I personally like it. I think the cop barriers embossed in it are superb little touch. I love the little Racecourse Ground LL11 badge on the bottom. I love the fact they've got the nod to the colliery again. And I think, the sponsor and the badge layout looks nice. We spoke last year about when the kits came out last year. I think it was the yellow one. We commented about the fact that the United sponsor looked bizarre because it was so high up the shirt and things, but the way they've laid this out, it looks lovely. So yeah, I personally, I kind of going against the grain of what the majority of fans that I've read seem to dislike this shirt. I actually really like it. And at the moment of the two, this would be the one that I would buy. But the cream one, as you've mentioned, the off-white cream one, is the one that I'm really looking forward to seeing because, again, I've got a sneaky suspicion that might be a bit of a special one. The badge is interesting as well that you mentioned there. The fact that it looks like, I get the feeling it's the latest step in a change, a full-on long-term change. If you go back to the original, or the drawings of the cop, and obviously the bit that's going to be outside the cop is just the bottom half of the current badge, the dragons and the ball. We lose the shitty feathers and the spiel. So I think the club is slowly transitioning away from our historical badge into this newer version, which I don't think. Red Passion will go off its tits, won't it? There'll be people complaining till the cows come home. But I think the majority of Wrexham fans would back it.
I think so.
And it happens, doesn't it? A lot of football clubs change, modernise, whatever you want to call it, their crest over the years. It happens, doesn't it? So I think it gets my vote. And if that's what they are starting to do, then happy days. But yeah, looking forward to seeing that third kit. But yeah, I like this. I really like this red one, and despite what a lot of other people seem to dislike it, I really like it. The look of it.
You can already get that bottom half of the badge on a hat at the moment. The hat is very, very nice. It's a lovely hat.
Does it have this? I've not seen that bottom half alone, and I think that's where it needs to go. I do think that the chopping the top off, and lots of clubs have gone from a simplified version to a shield. Have gone back. Liverpool had the liver bird, then created a whole shield, and then went back. There's lots of versions of it. The dragons with the ball that has a sort of a feel of like Bayer Leverkusen almost. So there's some modernization of it. You only have to look at Juventus when they went from their historical badge to the designer J. There's something. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it looks really neat, and it's just move on. You know what I mean? It is move on. But when you've got the long-serving history that you guys have got by being one of the oldest clubs in the world, it is a very sensitive and difficult conversation to have. But I do think you need to have it.
I don't think getting rid of the Prince of Wales feathers is a difficult and sensitive thing at all. I think.
I don't think. But changes.
Yeah. I think I can understand why they're being tentative around it and trying to do it over a period of time, because I think it's the identity of the club, isn't it? And I think it's. Not that you should, and not that I would necessarily agree with this, but it's a brand, isn't it? And whenever a brand changes their logo, it's a big deal, and you've got to make sure you get it right.
But you also need to move. You need to make this change soon. You need to do it before the revolution comes, because when it comes, people, you do not want to be on the wrong side, and that,
no,
and
definitely not.
And the feathers.
I'm not being a royalist. Fuck that for a game of soldiers.
But I do agree, Jay. I do like the two-tone, but I'd be curious, and I don't know if you can tell from these pictures, how pale is that bottom red? It feels that I think some people might not, because like the top red feels like Nottingham Forest Garibaldi red, whereas the lower red, I can't decide whether it's too pale and it's not scarlet enough. And is that why people don't like it?
I think the problem you've got is that with the home kit for a home kit for any football club, it's really difficult, isn't it, to alter it every year?
Should you?
That's my next question. Stop reading the script too closely and whatever.
I'm not reading the script.
I'm not reading the script. I never read the script.
You don't bother. This is the fourth year in a row we're releasing 3 shirts, right? 65 quid a shirt. You want to personalise it, that's an extra 24 quid. So you're looking at nigh on 95 quid per shirt. You're talking if you're buying for kids as well, You're paying out a fair amount of money every year. Plus, there's the sustainability issue with regards to people saying, look, football needs to be more sustainable. We're churning out shirts like it's no tomorrow. Now, I know this happens with many, many clubs, but there are a couple of clubs this season who are saying, no, we're going to reuse our shirt from last season because we do shirts every 2 years because we are a sustainable club. which way should we go here? Because shirt, 65 quid now for a shirt. Maybe 5 years ago I'd have gone, how much? But now you kind of don't bulk at it. I mean, I think
in the Prem we're talking 85-90 minimum,
yeah,
and then you add everything else to it, it goes to 100 plus. There's also the match, the actual the
player
play,
replicas, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want the exact same fabric and everything that the players wear, you pay extra. So these are cheap replicas of the players thing. It's an insane amount of money, and I haven't bought a Liverpool top for 4 years, maybe 5. For me, the occasions to change it. Now, look, I'll go with an internationals to begin with, because the internationals make sense. You have 2-year campaigns normally. You have a major tournament at the end of it. It feels right that you wear a kit through a campaign and you play it in the tournament, or you release it at a major tournament and you wear it for the next 2 years. That's what Cymru tends to do. That's what most internationals do. I think there should be something about clubs doing something similar, 2 years minimum, unless you get promotion or something, where it's the marking of a new era in another level. I do feel like there's something quite celebratory about going, we've gone up into the League One, we've gone up into the Championship. This is now our Championship kit. I think you can be excused. Because it feels like it's a celebration of a major achievement. But I feel that doing it every year and then doing it all 3 kits, they used to be back in the day when I was a lad, it was like 2 or 3 years between each kit, and they'd be on a cyclical. The away kit would change 1 year, then the home kit would change the following. It was never all 3 kits every year, and that's where I feel the that for me is a little bit disgusting. I think it's not comfortable. It's not palatable for me, really, that to change all 3 kits. It just feels mercenary, and they've got to do something about it. I just feel that that's not broadly principled about the club. You can still buy more kits. They'll still sell them. There will still be enough people who didn't buy last year's who will buy it this year. I just don't feel it's fair that you, who would like to buy the shirt every year and represent yourself on the pet terraces the way that your team's representing on the pitch, but you are now paying tickets to the games, the overpriced, for food, whatever. Not at Wayne's, very good offers. But in case he's listening, because I wouldn't mind a free burger. But if you're paying that and a few pints, and then you've got to travel, and then you get your shirt, and then all of that, it's horrible numbers, and it's the one criticism the Prem constantly get. And you are obviously one step away from that, but you're also one step away from that same argument.
Well, the transfer window has been open for a few weeks now, and we should see the revolving door a whiz with players coming and going. First, Wrexham, and with the departures in May, there were many spaces to fill with Wrexham women. Unlike the men, Jenny Sugarman was actually busy. Joining, obviously, ex-Cardiff player Michaela Cook, goalkeeper Lucy Farrell, 22 years old. She came from Stoke City, making 15 appearances in WSL 3 last season. Previously, she's played for Burnley, Halifax Town and Stockport County, while also coming through the academies at both Manchester United and Manchester City. She's born in Llantrisant. Farrell made a number of appearances for Cymru's under-19s team. There, she played alongside the likes of Safia Middleton-Patel, Phoebe Poole and Tiana Teza, who are currently in the Welsh squad. She also played alongside current Wrexham players Maria Francis-Jones and Faye Knox. This year saw Farrell take the next step in her international development, and for Cymru Women's World Cup qualifiers against Albania in April, Rhian Wilkinson called up Farrell for the first time. Then striker Natasha Thomas joined us. 30 years old, she started her career with Lowestoft Town before making the move to Ipswich Town in 2015. Thomas made 260 appearances and scored 175 goals, and she leaves the Tractor Girls as the club's record appearance maker and their all-time goal scorer. The forward went on from the 4th tier of English football all the way to WSL 2 with Ipswich, and last season she scored 2 goals in 21 appearances in the 2nd tier. In October 2024, the striker received her first call-up to the Jamaican national team. She went on to make her debut during her first camp away against France. Since then, Thomas has made 6 appearances for Jamaica. Her first goal came in a 4-1 friendly over Trinidad and Tobago before she went on to score a brace in a victory over Dominica in the World Cup qualifier. Midfielder Bella Reedford, 23 years old, is Wrexham born and began her career at Tranmere Rovers before moving to Manchester United. Coming up through the Red Devils Academy, she went on to captain United at under-21 level and led them out in the final of the FA Youth Cup. Reedford went on to join Burnley in the summer of 2023, where she was managed by current assistant manager Rebecca Solvik. After spending 2 years with the Clarets, the midfielder joined Stoke City. In the past season, in the third tier, Reedford made 20 appearances for the Potters. The midfielder also has experience at international level. Reedford has featured for Cymru at both under-17s and under-19s level during her time with the national team. Reedford faced off against the likes of Belgium, Denmark and Austria. She also played alongside current Wrexham players Maria Francis-Jones, Lucy Farrell and Ava Suckley. And then finally, defender Lydia Salloway, 19 years old, but she's on loan from WSL side Aston Villa. Salloway made her senior debut for the Villains in December 2023 at the age of 16 against Durham in the League Cup, before making her first WSL appearance against Manchester United at Villa Park in 2025. The defender went on to sign her first professional contract last summer and made another first-team appearance against Bristol City in the League Cup. January saw the youngster make a loan move to SWPL outfit Glasgow City, and Salloway made her City debut against Stenhousemuir and was part of the squad that defeated Rangers to win the Sky Sports Cup in March. Salloway also represented England internationally from under-16s level to under-19s level. With the young Lionesses, Salloway has competed against high-quality opposition, including Italy, the Netherlands and Germany. So Daz, 4 signings for the Wrexham women, plus Michaela Cook, of course, from Cardiff City. 4 internationals there at youth level. And Natasha Thomas has made some scary numbers. Obviously, we lost a fair few players in the summer, but is Jenny kind of going the right way, do you think, by shoring up Wrexham in this way? And what kind of a daunting prospect is this going to be for other sides in the Adran Premier when we start the season in September?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing we were talking about earlier, and we've talked about it previously, is that Jenny Sugarman's bringing in some seriously interesting talent, some players. And being able to draw them away from WSL sides or other notable leagues is an incredible gift, whatever. I don't know what it is that they're offering. I know European tournaments is one option, but that arguably is a brief incentive. But I think there's something exciting about the way they're playing. So, if you just go back in the, you talked about on loan from, young talent from WSL sides. So that's always been where you take that, emerging talent from the big clubs, whether it's Aston Villa or a Liverpool or a Man City or whoever, to be able to draw them and say that Wrexham is actually a meaningful loan destination. It gives some indication actually as to where they recognize that team. I do think the opponents that they're playing against is a very different level of opponent, so clubs got to be really careful about that. I love the fact that they're bringing in arguably one of your own, so to bring somebody in who is probably an example of somebody who should have played for Wrexham had the team been of note. So Bella Reedford, would have been one of those players you would have signed, I would have guessed, at a stage if you had the setup in place at the time she was emerging through as a young teen through the teenage system, but instead went to Tranmere, which all of North Wales feeds straight into your Tranmeres, into your Liverpools and your Evertons and your Manchesters and both Manchester clubs. You lose emerging talent from North Wales straight into those big clubs. So to be able to have a club like Wrexham, I think the Bellas of the future are hopefully going to stop there, at least if it's only for a brief period of time. So it's great to have somebody come back, but Bella's not that old. She's 23, so that's bringing in some serious experience, but also the passion of being local. I watched a bit of the highlights of the games recently, the European games and stuff. And when I saw Natasha Thomas come on, and I mean, wow, and an amazing addition, pace, experience, everything about it. I thought, where did she come from? I missed all of these signings, obviously, because I was on holiday and all of that kind of thing. So, that was, that was exciting to see and gives you another option. But for me, I still think Michaela Cook is the signing of, wow. I mean, has always been one of the go-to any admirer of the women's game in Welsh football. Michaela Cook has been one of those standout players for Cardiff and has been a significant part of their treble-winning seasons. To lose one of their talisman to Wrexham, Cardiff have got to be. I don't even know how this happens. I just can't fathom that conversation.
Well, the fact that she's relocated as well from South Wales to North Wales, that's a fair appeal. And she's Cardiff born and bred. She openly admits she's a Cardiff supporter. When she scored against us in that game last season at the racecourse, she came over and did the Ayatollah.
She's absolutely.
She's a blue. She's an absolute bluebird. But
so that's what makes it fascinating that she sees the project, if we're going to call it that, the long-term project of Jenny Sugarman and what Wrexham owners, management, structure, it's a very exciting outlook that clearly they were able to sell a proposal of some sort of future plan to somebody who is doing so well. Now, whether or not that's something to do with the change of management at Cardiff, that we can't underestimate the fact that the success they've had is aligned with their management, and now that that's all changing, maybe it was a time to step away, and it made things a lot easier. The fact is, she's seeing something really, really exciting, and so I am amazed that was even possible to get a true blue to come and play for yourselves. But what a talent. We know she's formidable. She's tenacious. She's brilliant.
She can't even get a start at the moment, not for the European games. She didn't get a start for either one of them. She came off the bench.
And I think
that for me is that's amazing. I mean,
I think it'll take time to bed in. I think for training and stuff. But I do think there's questions then that's going to be challenging the likes of Lily, and some of those midfield players are going to have to really there's competition for places, like you said. At the moment, Michaela's on the bench. I do think that that there are some perhaps what you would have classed as stalwart regulars who are now not going to be there, and that's going back to your Mullin, going back to your Ollie Palmers, going back to whoever we're talking about. When the club is progressing and moving and raising their game, then I genuinely don't. I fear for the rest of the league. I do fear for the rest of the league. I do think this is an incredible uplift again on previous years, and only Cardiff and Swansea have probably got the finances to even consider this, and yet if Cardiff are losing some of their better players already, that what does that say? But I do fear for the league that I think you'll walk it. I genuinely feel like unless the other clubs get some substantial funding and changes, there's going to be a huge shift. I've talked about it many times, and my feelings on that. But this is very exciting for you, and if this could be in place, ready, build on that, and then ready for European campaigns, then maybe further progress is a possibility. But yeah, exciting times for Wrexham women.
Daz, how big is it for Cymru women's domestic football? Is that Wrexham are pulling 4 players back across the border from the English system, because most of the business, when you look at it, is done internally. There aren't a huge amount of players that come from outside of the Cymru system. They're normally players who either have come up through youth and then maybe transfer across clubs, or they've come up through youth in the club and then they transition to the senior side. But Wrexham here have made 4 of their 5 signings. As you say, Michaela Cook is absolutely the top of their game. Arguably one of the top 5 best players in the Adran League anyway before this season starts. And then the other 4 have all been poached across from the WSL. How big is that for Welsh domestic women's football?
I am nervous about it. I do think it's impressive. I do think it's great. But, if any of these players have got international aspirations, playing against Aberystwyth Town or... you know what I mean? I'm talking about a club dear to my heart. That's not a level of competition that.
But is that the next glass ceiling to be broken? Because obviously there is a huge thing, isn't there? Of the fact that the Cymru national women's side has no players from the domestic side at all, is that the next glass ceiling to be broken, to get a player from the Gennaro Adran Premier actually in to the first team for the national side?
Yes, but you need all the clubs to be able to compete to do that. I just don't think you can buy them in from Wrexham, because their week out challenge means you're playing against easy competition. You're just not being tested. I mean, I fear that if the clubs do get that much better, they won't be tested, and then they go into Europe and they get proven. It's the same if you've got international aspirations. You won't get picked because your level of opponent. You might be scoring 6 goals a game for all the management, but it's against Aberystwyth. What does that mean? If you did that against Man City, then you're suddenly in contention with an international place. I'm really excited about one club being able to do all of this, but I fear it only truly a success story if the whole league can be dragged with it. And I don't know if the FAW has got to do something about that with backfill. I know that you can argue then, well, hang on, why is Wrexham having to fork out of its own pocket and then everybody else getting subsidised? But without some sort of levelling up, like the American football system is where, you get draft and all the weakest teams get the strongest players, and it helps to keep the league competitive. We don't have anything like that. And we are in danger of stretching that first to 8. Making the league bigger might help, but I'm not sure.
I agree with you, but I think Wrexham have jump-started something. TNS have put far more resources into their women's side than they have in the past 4 or 5 years. Swansea have just announced a major monetary investment in the women's side, and Cardiff obviously have always had that kind of base, and now they've been promoted up to the Championship. They are increasing the levels. Obviously, that is 4 sides. Is there a danger of this definite split between the haves and the have-nots?
Well, 3 of those clubs get that money from the men's game. The money's not coming from the women's game. Let's be honest. There's no income stream that level. So it's coming from the men's game, and they have that because they are members of the English football system. TNS is the exception to the rule, but they are the most successful of all the men's teams in Wales who regularly get to play European football. Now, if they're going to diversify some of that money into the women's game as well as the men's game, they've got to try and maintain that dominance. Whereas where they've normally put all their money, and they've brought over some quality players over the border for many years, and they've managed to sort of maintain that that level. If you're going to split that funds towards the women's game, which it sounds like TNS are doing, but it's all coming from the men's game, that money. So we've got to make sure that the sponsorship is better, the numbers at gates are better, and that. But I just don't know how your Pontypridd, Aberystwyth, even the next tier afterwards, your Carmarthens, your Haverfordwest, Bangor, there isn't, and I'm guilty of it. I don't go to all of these games and put my money over the turnstile, and so it's good that the TV money's still there. We've just talked about it earlier that there's going to be some of that, but it's exciting, but it frightens me that it will pull us into a 2-tier of have and have-nots, like you said.
I agree. I mean, you don't get me wrong. I'd love Wrexham women to win the league again, but you want competition. You don't want it to be. You don't want to be a TNS walkover every year, because there's no growth in that. And then you're never going to be able to get players of a high standard, because they're going to be going, well, why should I play there? Because there's no competition. So I definitely want these teams to compete and actually push Wrexham, because I don't want to walk over. But I agree with you. I think having, obviously, and we'll talk about Wrexham women, because obviously we've seen them play already, Jamie and I. We'll talk about that next week, but it's very exciting, certainly for the season. Where Wrexham men are concerned, Parky obviously plays his cards very close to his chest. As we've mentioned before, Paul Mullin left by mutual consent, as did Tom O'Connor. Tom signed for Wrexham in 2021, and he was another one of the 10 players to win 3 consecutive promotions with the club. He moved on loan to the Posh for the 25-26 season, playing 19 matches in all competitions before injury led to his spell being curtailed. However, having worked to recover through the summer, the Irishman, who has played 115 times for Wrexham, scored 8 goals, will now sign permanently for the London Road club. The only other player announced out of the door so far is Mo Farl on loan to Port Vale on a season-long loan, returning to the club he was on loan to last season. With regards to incoming players, of course, it was all very, very quiet and nothing was happening, and I put the script to bed, and then, yes, you guessed it, Wrexham men make their first summer signing today. Wing-back Danny Imre from Crystal Palace has been signed for an undisclosed fee, but rumoured to be a minimum of £5 million. According to the Wrexham website, Danny has signed a 4-year deal with Wrexham and joined up with his new teammates on the latest leg of the US tour in New York. 23-year-old has made his senior debut for Chelmsford City in the National League South, aged just 16, and a year later moved to Crystal Palace. He made 5 EFL Trophy appearances for the Eagles development squad and also enjoyed loan spells with Chelmsford, Bromley and Blackpool. In January last season, he moved on loan to West Brom and made 17 appearances, including a 2-2 draw with Wrexham at the Hawthorns on Good Friday. He scored 1 goal against Watford and also claimed 2 assists during his time with the Baggies, playing his part in the 10-game unbeaten run which helped them to escape relegation. Jamie, let's talk about, first of all, Wrexham's problem about its squad. Our squad is bloated, isn't it? Let's be honest. There are a lot of players there now, and we've seen it in the pre-season friendlies where basically we can have a full 11 out, change a full 11 for second half, and there are still players that haven't got on the field. It's a very, very bloated squad. Surely Wrexham have to start getting some players off the books, don't they?
Yeah, I think that process has started, and I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a few others that will head out the door before the end of the transfer window. It's not that straightforward, though, is it? You know, I think going back to what we were saying about Mullin before, I think a lot of these players that fall into this bracket now, so your likes of Paul, Tom O'Connor, Elliot Lee, Mullin, you know, you could argue the likes of Barney and people like this, you know, no one could criticise them for wanting to financially get what's owed to them from the contract they've been given by the football club. That's just human nature. Yeah. And I think, you know, again, probably in the same bracket as what I was saying about Moles before, I think maybe one of the consequences to the football club moving so fast on the pitch is it's left us in this kind of, with this little bit of a problem where we've ended up, you know, when we were in National League, League 2, League 1, we were bringing in players from higher levels, and to do that, we would have had to have paid them handsomely for the level we were asking them to play at. So I think, you know, Elliot Lee and Paul Mullin, 2 in particular, they were rewarded for the contributions they were making at the time and given the good contracts for a long period of time. But obviously, again, because the football club moves so fast, it's caused a bit of a problem where, you know, you're right, the squad is swollen and needs to be trimmed. You know, we've seen Andy Cannon obviously move on. We've seen, you know, like you say, Mo Farl go out on loan, Tom O'Connor move on, and it won't be the last. I would expect, you know, at least another 4 or 5 to go out before the window closes. I mean, look at Ryan Hardy, for crying out loud. You know, he was our first signing last year in the Championship. Yep. And he hasn't even travelled.
Connor Cody, here's another one.
You know, and Connor Cody's another one. You know, he's probably, you know, I know he went to Krakow and Helsinki, didn't he? But he's not gone to America. So again, that's pretty damning. So there are a lot of players that are attached to the squad. Not just legacy players, shall we call them, the players that have been there for a while. But there are unfortunately some players that haven't worked out. You know, Hardy and Cody being 2 great examples. But you know, look, that's for the club to sort out behind the scenes. But I think, you know, we as fans, I think we've got to remember that it's not Championship manager. You know, we can't just sign players left, right, and centre. You know, there's obviously huge financial ramifications to these signings, particularly the level that we're at now. You know, I mean, the signing today, you know, Emery is great that we finally got one through the door. It's great that he's going to get some time with the squad out in America. You know, I don't expect to see him play against Liverpool, but maybe get some minutes against Sunderland. 100%, in my opinion, that the position in our team and in our squad that we needed to strengthen more than anything else. So the fact that we've brought him in is great. I can't profess to know a huge amount about him. I suppose the fact that he's come from Crystal Palace, you know, established Premier League team, he must have something about him. From bits I've read online, both Blackpool and West Brom, in particular, where he was last season, are gutted that he's not gone there, because he was held, you know, quite high regard. I've seen a couple of clips of him. He looks like he's got some pace, which is brilliant. You know, very much what we need. So, yeah, great signing. I think. You know, I said to you before we started recording tonight that I'm slightly nervous about the fee. You know, because you've reportedly minimum £5 million for a player who, yes, you've signed him from a Premier League club, but has not played in the Premier League and has only played, you know, minimum games in the Championship. But I think there's you know, you have to trust the people involved with identifying and completing these transfers, that they obviously feel this is a player who's got potential to grow with us. So yeah, you know, glad we finally got one through the door. You know, it'll be interesting to see how many more and when we bring in. You know, so many rumours. There's been so many rumours doing the rounds, and I know a lot of Wrexham fans have been losing their minds over the fact we've not made a signing until today. I've not been too concerned, other than the only thing that's kind of concerned me more than anything is seeing every other team in the Championship strengthen their squads quite considerably in some cases, and we've not done as yet, because I think, yes, we were phenomenal last season. We finished well above where we probably expected to, but I think we're all in agreement that to move it on to the next level, that there are, you know, probably at least 2 or 3 quality additions that need to be made to give us that potential to move forward. But that's all I think we're talking about. You know, 4 max. I can't believe we. You know, I don't think we don't need too many more beyond that. I know obviously the whole goalkeeper conversation is raging, which baffles me, if I'm honest. But you know, that seems to be something that's got some legs. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, chuffed that he's you know, we've got him through the door. Excited to see him play. And again, how ridiculous to see him presented at the top of the
Empire State
Building, for crying out loud.
Crazy. Daz, as Jamie said, until today, only us and Watford had not made any signings at all. Lots of other teams are, you know, have made some significant signings. Stoke City have been paying out some huge amounts. We've got some very big hitters in the league this year, including obviously West Ham, who, you know, they sold 2 players last week and made £157 million, plus their parachute payments and everything else. You know, they've got a huge, you know, coffers potentially to play for players. Wolves, obviously, they're no mugs. Neither are Burnley. And then you've got the established sides, which we competed against last season. Are Wrexham in danger of looking like they're standing still? Or is this kind of wise governance from Parky saying, look, I don't need to wipe clean because I did that last year by signing 14 players. I'm now sharpening that pencil, sharpening that scalpel to make this a more surgical way to try and get the promotion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that fine balance where last year everybody was going nuts about the number of players that were coming through the door, and then it took a bit of time to get them all sort of gelled and embedded together. And then the complete opposite, it's gone quiet this year, and then everyone's screaming that they want change. And so what you do, if you're the manager, you kind of feel you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But I think it was proven that some of the purchases he did last year were slow burners, and they've come through, and you've now got a pretty well established you know, there's a camaraderie, there's a gelling together of that squad. And now I think bringing in too many players in one go would be disruptive, and disruption is absolutely killer. And we've seen so much happen to some of the clubs that come down from the Prem, and we've seen some clubs that went down from the Championship. It's stability that helps you to stay there. Now, I thought Wrexham would have been happy with consolidation. Of course, having watched the documentary, you kind of see that they kind of got swept up in it a little bit because they thought they could. And you know what? Of course you do. If you're that close, if you're 1 point away or 2 points away from a goal here or a win there, away from being in the conversation, you'd want to be part of the conversation. But I don't think that many of the boardroom or certainly the management thought they would compete at that level so quickly. I mean, if they did, then hats off to their cooners and their confidence, because I just feel like we know it's the toughest league in the world because it's so close. The difference between the first team, first 2, 3 is often there, and then the bottom 2. But everybody else, you're going from 3rd through to 21st or something. It literally, you could be in any one of those positions and still have had a good or a bad season. It's really tough. I think all that spending money, you've got to be careful. Like Jamie said, if you're a victim of your own success, if you spend and you have long-term contracts, and then it's harder to move them on, because if you do get to the Prem, then we've got to do this all again and get rid and buy it up, and it's a slippery slope. But that is the problem you've got now by being in the Championship and with aspirations. The next step is Premier League. So it would be madness to anybody to go there thinking I only want to play Championship football. None of those players that have been signed think I only want to play. Your Josh Windus has played, Kiefer Moore has played, Danny Ward has played. They've all played Premier League football, so they know what it could be like for them. So they've all gone to a club where they believe this aspiration, is going to get them there, and they want to be part of this journey. So there's no denying the ambition will remain. Do they have the firepower? Do they have the defensive resilience? Do they have the goalkeepers? Then all of these questions need answering. But I think Wrexham would be wise to not disrupt a very harmonious ecosystem at the moment. And yes, you want to build. There are players going to be leaving, like you've just shown. There are players who perhaps aren't up to. I thought Conor Cody would be a better addition to you guys. I thought what he'd proven himself at Wolves and things like that. The step down, I thought he'd be bringing you some quality. Clearly hasn't shown it in training and not in the performances you've seen on the pitch.
He was terrible at Wisla Krakow. He was awful.
Yeah. So it's not a given that just by signing some Premiership players that you're going to get them to help you take you back up again. So it is a very, very fine line, and margins are really, really delicately balanced. And I think getting some youngsters in who are not getting their game time at a major club, so whether it's Crystal Palace or anything like that, or there's value in getting maybe a few more loan players, because we've seen that last year from Man City. We've seen, we know that that's an option. But I think committing to long-term contracts, who's to say you don't get relegated next year or the year after the year
absolutely.
after that?
Absolutely.
And you get stuck with those wage bills.
Would any of us have said last season that Leicester City were going to get relegated? No,
absolutely no. I mean, if you look at our predictions, I think certainly I had them high up, and I think I'm assuming you both did as well. So
did you say?
Sorry, I mentioned it, so okay. I'll give it to him. That's fine. I just think that you're absolutely spot on. Leicester is now surely the benchmark of how it can go easily wrong. I mean, I think your Sheffields, that's a completely different story of mismanagement and misownership. I think that's a horror story in a different way. Leicester tried to, all the things that you would think a club would normally do when they come down with the parachute stuff, but they sold some of their best players. They completely disrupted that harmony and collapsed. So I think you've got to be really, really careful. And I think what you're doing at the moment feels right, and the performances we've seen so far, it feels right.
Jamie, regards to Danny Imre, obviously, he's a right wing back. The area that we all identify is somewhere that we feel that Wrexham needs to bolster after we've lost Issa Kabore back to Manchester City. Does this kind of sound the bell for the likes of Ryan Barnett or Ryan Longman, who obviously normally have those positions? Are you kind of thinking, that's kind of underlined that from that point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think this signing, without being brutal, I think the pecking order now becomes Imre, Longman, Barnett on the right side. With the Barnett's very much one of those ones that I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves before the end of the transfer window. Longman, I think, is probably got a place in the squad because I think he's a good backup option. He's got good versatility both sides, and he's a good backup option. It'll be interesting to see whether this is is this one of a couple that he's going to get. I don't know. I think we all kind of agreed at the end of last season that wing backs both sides is something that we probably needed. However, now a little bit of time has passed, and you look at the situation, you think to yourself, well, if and it's a big if, but if Kakache now is over his injury woes and we can get a consistent run out of him, you think to yourself, well, between him and Thomason, that's pretty decent as left-sided options. I think Thomason has got more chance of playing as a left wing back than he has in midfield, to be brutally honest. And I think he did an admirable job last season, and potentially is found a position that maybe he didn't know he was capable of playing. So, with those two on the left, you think, do you need another left wing back if those are your two options? I guess time will tell, won't it? But on the right side, I think, without being disrespectful to Barney and to Longman, there needed to be an upgrade on those. And I think certainly on paper, that's what Imre gives us. But, will it be the only one? I don't know. Obviously, it'd be fascinating to see what happens between now and the end of the transfer window.
So we will talk next week about Wrexham men's and women's pre-season and how they've done so far. But Wrexham men still have a couple of pre-season friendlies to do before the season starts proper in a few weeks. Obviously, we're recording this on Wednesday. Wrexham, in a couple of hours, kick off against Liverpool at Yankee Stadium in New York, which is early Thursday morning, midnight 30 BST our time. Liverpool, with new manager Andoni Iraola replacing Arne Slot, of course, has already beaten Sunderland 4-2 in their first pre-season game in the US. But already Iraola seems to be under pressure to get Liverpool better results than last season, and there have been some key injuries looking at the news. Daz, I know you're probably going to go, but you know more about Liverpool than I do. First of all, Wrexham versus Liverpool at Yankee Stadium. It probably doesn't get much better than that, does it, as a pre-season friendly?
It does have a lot of Hollywood sort of magic to it in some ways, and yet it's in New York, so couldn't be further away. Yankee Stadium, I know that, baseball stadiums are a very different ground, and they can set them up for football, but it's very odd when you see a baseball stadium set up for football. But it's iconic, isn't it? They make, the new ground is amazing, and if you're gonna try and push the promotion of the club in the American market, then there's no better way than having like I say, a absolute flagship stadium in terms of history. And I know it's across the road from the original one that Babe Ruth built and all of that, but still, it's an important piece of sporting history to be able to say you played at Yankee Stadium, and then to be able to play against, I'm going to say, the greatest football team that the British Isles have ever produced, because the maths do back that up, trophies, etc. But I wouldn't say the current squad is. I wouldn't say that the current team is. They win the league.
Let's just hold on that for a second, because obviously Arnie Slot last season,
Yeah.
Season before that wins the league.
Yeah.
With many saying, well, actually, that's you Jurgen Klopp side you had, and all you did really was, adapt it a little bit, and you taken the glory.
Which I think is harder than people give him credit for.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
but last season, let's be honest, a lot of people, a lot of football fans, particularly a lot of Liverpool fans, saw that as a failure. There was a failure in results. There was a failure in the dressing room, certainly. He lost a lot of key players, including Mo Salah. So he was here and gone. Obviously, Areola has come from Bournemouth. Is it Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Yes. Obviously done fantastic things at Bournemouth with the squad that they've got with him. As a Liverpool fan, first of all, before we talk about against Wrexham, as a Liverpool fan, what are you hoping for the season to come?
Okay, yeah. So let's put a bit more context on it, if I can, very quickly. Not many clubs go through the bereavement of one of their star players in such dramatic circumstances at the beginning, in that way. So I don't think many people quite had quite measured or quite recognized the measure of the impact of losing a player of such popularity, significance to the team. Games we would have won if we just brought Jota off the bench and would have brought the dynamicism. He was incredibly well loved by fans, clearly popular in the team, and the shocking way it happened, it rocked them. And I still feel now, even now, when you speak to Virgil van Dijk, I don't speak to him obviously. When I've heard interviews with him, or Andy Robertson, and all of these other players who were very close to him, they're still hurting, and it's a year or whatever, it's still hurting. So I think nobody can underestimate how rocked that dressing room was. So there was no way they were going to be the normal selves defending. So I completely argue that with anybody. Bring in that all the high profile players that they spent a lot of money, and the horrible way that the Newcastle Isak deal thing did or didn't whatever go through. So there was a lot of politics around it. So it was all disrupted before he even started. So I think he had a tough job before he starts. Anyway, players should get together. They should buy into the manager's vision. That's all what you should be doing. I don't think any one player is bigger than the club, and Mo is no exception. I know he's been a great servant. I know he's been an incredible goal-scoring machine, and he has raised the standards of fitness and training and, age-defying, but he isn't the player he was. So I do think he was wrong to say the things he did. So anyway, that's Liverpool's politics. I think as a squad, they bolstered, but some of them didn't click straight away. I still think we've got some potential to see some of the players from last year's purchase signings still improve and settle in, and already some additional players coming in, very exciting. But what I am excited about is that although I liked Slot, he was very pragmatic, and I liked the way that he talked about the game and approached the game as a philosophy. He's Dutch. I love that kind of football. There is something really rock and roll exciting about the future now, with new management, new coaching staff, and a couple of new players, and also some of those players coming back to fitness. Just seeing Isak playing in the World Cup, just seeing the likes of, but I just think there's depth across the team, even if you're not talking about the first team. The likes of our own very own Jason. Lewis Kumas, Lewis Kumas coming back from loan. He's already proven himself. He scored
against Sunderland.
It's Sunderland, So we've got Harvey Elliott back, who I've always loved playing, but whether he'll stay, I'm not sure. So there's I don't know. There's a mix here of lots of unknowns about what's going to happen with these players coming back in. Whether it's whether Chiesa stays, whether the fact that we lost Ibu in defence to Real Madrid on a free, again frees people seeing out their contracts. Is that poor sort of board level management, or just very clever footballers just going, I'll just see out my contract. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Ibu, and thank you, Mo. So it's not settled yet, but I'm already excited about what I've seen, and I know that the manager is going to expect. I loved Bournemouth under his tenure.
Really good.
I think that's the most interesting thing for me with Liverpool this season is whether he will be able to instill his way of playing at Liverpool as he did at Bournemouth. Very high intensity, very high press, but obviously a lot less games for Bournemouth, whereas he's going to have to be dealing with, a game every 3 days at Liverpool, isn't he? Obviously, he's going to have a better squad and a bigger squad, arguably. It'll be interesting to see how far away from his kind of philosophy that's got him the job he'll be able to kind of adapt into the Liverpool team.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think he's proven. I think he's proven it in Prem as well. I think that's where some managers come in. They come in from other leagues, and you think they're going to do really well, but actually, the Premiership is a very different kind of level of style, intensity, speed, aggression. He knows this. None of this is going to be new news to him. So I feel. I'm really excited about it as an appointment, as a replacement. Like I say, it's unusual for us to sack a manager. We're not that kind of club, so it's unprecedented in that sense. And also, he'd already left his club. And I think that's the other respectful thing is they didn't poach him from another club.
No.
He'd already said,
I'm not gonna renew.
I'm looking for a new challenge, and then we came along, and so it'll be great. It'll be good to see. But I think they're already showing Liverpool are already putting out lots of youngsters. Obviously, a lot of players still to come back from World Cup duty, so they might feature a bit more tonight.
Well, let's look at tonight's game. Obviously, kicking off in a couple of hours as we're recording at Yankee Stadium. Daz, what kind of a side are you expecting Ariel to put out? Will it be kids, youth? Take it like a training game, or will he? Because we saw when we're talking next week about that, but we saw against Leeds. Leeds put out lots of first-team players. Man U put out lots of first-team players. Do you think he will take this game seriously and say, no, I'm going to run as hard a starting 11 as I can because I really want this to be a proper test?
Well, I mean, I can only base it on what he did against Sunderland, and he had a mixture. He had a mixture of balanced, regular players. For who he can rely on, and he brought in a few youngsters along the way. He's obviously trying to see who's are the players he's going to invest in, send out on loan, keep around the club, move on. He's got to make some decisions about some of that young talent, and I think he'll want to have a look at it. But he'll also want to begin to see how the partnerships work in terms of the more seasoned, and he knows how to where a Dominic Szoboszlai or a Virgil van Dijk plays or what have you. There are other players around them that he needs to be able to sort of see where they fit. So I think it'll be a mixture. I think nobody's going to really pin all their hopes for a new season on this one game. So I think, this is where you get the permission to be a bit of experimental. Of course, you've got the advantage of Wrexham being in a division lower than Liverpool. So the onus is on Liverpool. They should be winning. But it depends, like I say, I think he will put some youngsters out. But the problem is the youngsters are good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, not doubting that for a second. Jamie, where Wrexham are concerned, obviously we have seen wholesale changes. He's putting out a starting 11 and then second half putting out another 11. At what point do you think he starts to firm up what he would consider to be his season starting 11, i.e. starts putting out the players who you're thinking, right, if we're going to start the team sheet for a league game tomorrow, these are the 11 players that I'm going to put out?
I think we did see the start of that against Leeds because it wasn't the same as the Krakow and United games where you're quite right. That was two different teams in the first and second half. It wasn't like that against Leeds, was it? I think he made 3 changes at half time and then some more into the second half. So I think that was the start of it. Tonight against Liverpool, I've got to say it. I'm so jealous of the people, the Wrexham fans, your friends who are over there seeing all their stuff on social media. I would literally give a bollock to be over there for that. It's the one place in the world that I want to go to more than any other, and to be able to see this at the Yankee Stadium would be unbelievable. So I'm not jealous at all. but yeah, I think tonight will be similar to Leeds. I think he will probably, the majority of his team will probably be the same from the start, probably 60 minutes, and then we'll see some changes. I'm not necessarily saying that the team that starts tonight are going to be the team that we'll be looking at starting against Cardiff. But obviously, as these pre-season games are ticking away, the kind of natural history tells you that the closer you get to the first game, the more likely the team you see in that game, the pre-season game before it, is what you're going to see on the first game. So obviously they've got this game, they've got Sunderland game, and then he's already said he's going to use that Middlesbrough Carabao Cup game as a final pre-season game. So I think we started to see it against Leeds, where we're slowly starting to see the team that's probably most likely to start against Cardiff in that first game. But a lot of things could change between now and then. Now Parky was very open, wasn't he, recently with regards to transfers, and he sort of said, I think it was quite telling, really, that he got quoted as saying something along the lines of, the transfer dealings have been slow to this point because obviously a lot of players that they've been looking at or interested in have been involved in either the World Cup or are at Premier League clubs, and because of their players involved in the World Cup, it's meaning that teams want to keep hold of their squads for longer periods over the pre-season, which is interesting because that would suggest that a lot of our targets that we're looking at are maybe in the Premier League. Obviously, Danny Emery coming in today is, that ticks that box because he's come from Crystal Palace. So, yeah, interesting that was. So, I think to answer your question, I think today the Liverpool game will be a continuation of the Leeds game, where I think the bulk of the team, or the team that starts, will probably get a good 60 minutes, and then you'll see some changes. But the whole thing with pre-season, it's about getting fitness up and minutes up. It's not trying to reinvent formations and things, is it? We know the way we play, and I think we've just got to try and keep doing what we've been doing. We've had a very good pre-season so far. That Leeds game is brilliant. So if we can go toe to toe with Liverpool, I'm not expecting to obviously to win the game. If we can go toe to toe with Liverpool, regardless of what team they put out, and then it'll be a good exercise.
Quick predictions. I think Liverpool are going to win 3-1. Daz?
I'll be plucking them out. 4-2 again. Why not?
Predictions, you say? I'm gonna say. What do you think? The trophy says it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
Okay, excellent. Wrexham then travelled to Philadelphia to play their last game in the US versus Sunderland. The Black Cats have beaten York City. They have beaten York City 5-1 in the UK, lost 4-2 to Liverpool, and they play Leeds in New Jersey the day after we meet Liverpool, before obviously they meet Wrexham. Phil Parkinson managed Sunderland, of course, for a year in 2019, but because of COVID, they were placed 8th in League One, their lowest ever place, and Phil Parkinson was sacked, and that was his last job before joining Wrexham. Again, Jamie, this is kind of, you are getting now towards the sharp end, because the next game after this is going to be the Carabao Cup. As you just said, he's already said he's going to use that as a training match. And then the next game after that is going to be the opening game of the season versus Cardiff City. So are you expecting to see a much more solid starting 11 playing for 60, 70 minutes? And are we going to see Danny Emery?
Yes and yes. I would expect the team that starts this Sunderland game, I would expect that to be reasonably close to the team that he's going to look to start the season with. It'll be interesting to see what happens, like from a striker perspective. Obviously both Kiefer and Sam Smith have scored goals in pre-season, but Sam Smith in particular I think has been impressive. So it'll be interesting. But yes, my gut feeling is I think the team that starts this Sunderland game will be the team that will be fairly close to what I would expect to see at the start of the season. And yes, I would expect Danny Emery to play. At the end of the day, he's been brought in to be, without question, he's been brought in to be a starting right wing back, hasn't he? If he's fit, I don't know kind of where he's at in his pre-season journey. He's going to have been training and stuff, isn't he? He will have gone back with with the Crystal Palace players when their first players reported back for training. So I'm going to assume he's been training and his fitness levels are good. So it's pointless waiting. You need to get him in the team, and the quicker you get him in the team, the quicker you can get him bedded into with the rest of the players.
Daz, Sunderland did really well in the Premiership last season, well above expectation, considering they came from the Championship. Do you think they're more than a match for Wrexham, or do you think Wrexham actually can give them a good run for their money, even though it's a pre-season game?
They're a decent side. I mean, they certainly, let's say, performed better than anybody else expected. But actually, they've got some good players. They've recruited well. I mean, at one point in the World Cup, the top scoring club in the World Cup was Sunderland, or something after Liverpool, or something like that, or the number of assists. I mean, it was ridiculous how well, because Xhaka and players like that who are really well-established Premiership players were all doing well for their for their nations in the World Cup. So they've got some good players, and again, it's the same as what Jamie says. It depends if Sunderland are looking at, are they putting their first team out? Are they looking to just... But I think they know a lot more about their starting 11. There's no real changes. I don't think they brought in, there's no managerial change or anything like that. So there's likely to be a bit more stability. So I think they're more likely to play a few more fringe players, youngsters, seeing where they fit in a bigger, longer conversation, and where they fit in relation to a team like Wrexham at the division below, just to see where what is it that they still need to fill the gaps with, because they surprised everybody, but that was because of a lot of heart, determination, and spirit. It's hard to generate those when you're in a friendly. So I think it'll be a bit closer, but that's because I don't think it'll be a fully fledged sort of flat out Sunderland that we saw do so well in the Premier League.
I'm going to go for a Wrexham 2-1 win. In this one, I'm confident in this one. Daz, what do you reckon?
I don't put it past Wrexham getting a win, and I think there'll be goals. So maybe 3-2, but I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
And what does the champ say? Oh, champ say. Yeah.
3-2 to Wrexham.
Excellent, good, thank you. Well, we'll review both these games, as well as all of Wrexham men's and women's games in the pre-season in next week's pod. There we go, new season and we broke the duck. Next week we'll look back at all the Wrexham men's and women's. Stop polishing that. It doesn't matter how much you polish it, it's not going to get any shinier, you dirty bugger. We'll look back at all Wrexham men's and women's games, including Wrexham women's fantastic time in the European Champions League, which was absolutely brilliant. We'll look, obviously, at Wrexham women's fixtures for 26-27, which are being released on Monday. And finally, we will open the Chip Shop League as we all predict who's going up, who's going down, and where we think Wrexham will finish, and preview our first competitive game of the season as Wrexham travels to Middlesbrough in the first round of the Carabao Cup. Please let us know by the usual channels on social media if you've missed us in any way, shape or form, or you who are they, don't know who they are, whatever they may be. Obviously, we welcome your comments and questions. We always do. Please email us if you like, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. We'll have a look through everything, and react and answer as proper. Obviously, I've missed these two bozos next to me, so thank you, Taz.
Yeah, bozo. I'll take that. I've been called worse by you, so that's okay.
Absolutely.
You're welcome, mate.
Thank you, and thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure. Good to be back.
It's great to be back. Yep, and of course, even though we've got the new look and the new titles and everything else, we still aimed with the same old message. So come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
He eats more.
Clinton. 1-0.
Durkin plays the ball in, and Kieran Durkin, amazingly, has given Wrexham the lead.
Omari Hutchinson facing Arthur Okonkwo. Saved by Okonkwo! These dreams keep getting wilder.
Is it through to Bellamy? Craig Bellamy! It's 2-1 Wales! And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013! Barker goes ahead! And Wrexham take the lead. As things stand, Wrexham are champions.
On its cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee! The Eat More Chips Podcast!